Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to show you how to graph the sine and cosine functions using vertical translation. This is our first example. Graph function y equals sine of 2x minus 3. Generally, we know that we can apply the method of vertical translation if a number is being added or subtracted to the sine or cosine function. And idea is pretty straightforward. First, we obtain the graph of the function without that number. So in our case, it's minus 3. So first, we're going to obtain the graph of the function y equals sine of 2x. And then we're going to take that graph and shift it down 3 units. So with the vertical translation, if the number is being subtracted, we'll need to shift down. And if the number is being added, we have to shift up. Now, to save some time, I'm not going to show work involved in step 1, since we graphed this function in the previous video. So if you need to refresh it, please watch the previous video. But this is basically the graph we obtain in step 1. Since this graph is not our final answer, you want to graph it either very lightly or maybe using dashed line. So let's move on to step 2. So what we do, we take each key point of this graph, and the key points are 0 points, minimum and maximum points, and we shift them 3 units down. So basically this graph is not going to change its shape, it's just going to be positioned lower. And to help us to kind of hold the shape of this graph, we're also going to shift the line that's called the midline. So right now, for this basic graph, y equals sine of 2x, the midline is the x-axis. Well, the x-axis itself is going to stay where it is, but like imaginary line that goes through all zeros will be shifted 3 units down as well. So that's where it's going to appear. And now, as I said, I'm taking each key point and shifting it 3 units down. So this 0 will be shifted 3 units down, and it's going to be at -3. This maximum point will be shifted 3 units down, and it will be at -2. Next 0. And you got the idea, right? That minimum point is shifted 3 units down. Now it's over here. And I will continue in that manner. Okay, so that's what I got. And next, I'm going to erase all those arrows and connect points to obtain the graph. Okay, so that's what I got. And then what we have in green is the graph of the function y equals sine of 2x minus 3. And it was obtained using the vertical translation. Let's try one more example. We need to graph y equals 1 minus 2 cosine of 2 over 3x. We can see that this function also has a number of its side of cosine in this case. But are we going to have to shift up or down in this case? So whenever a number is in the front and not at the end, it may be a little bit confusing. So what you want to start with is to move that number to the end, and then it will be clear what has to be done. So if I take this number and move it to the end, I'm going to obtain the following function. Y equals -2 cosine of 2 over 3x. And then, since the number that we're moving is positive, I will have to write plus 1. Okay, now it's clear. Since 1 is being added, the vertical translation will involve shifting the graph 1 unit up. But where are we going to shift? As in the previous example, we're going to start with a graph that does not have that number. So, the graph of the function y equals -2 cosine of 2 over 3x. And again, this is the function that we graphed in the previous video, so I'm not going over the steps. Let me just show you the result we obtained in the previous video. So here's the graph of the function y equals -2 cosine of 2 over 3x. As you can see, it's graphed very lightly, since it's not our final answer. But that's the graph that I'm going to shift 1 unit up. meaning that every key point of this graph will be shifted 1 unit up, and the midline, the line that's kind of holding the graph. So here's where the midline is going to be after the shift. And now let's move all the points. So each point I move 1 unit up, straight up. In other words, my graph does not change its shape. It's just going to be positioned higher. Okay, so I shifted all the points. Now I have to focus on them and to reconnect them with a smooth wave. So that's what I got. It means that what I have in green is the graph of the function y equals -2 cosine of 2 over 3x plus 1. So these are the steps for graphing the sine and cosine functions using vertical translation.